What's up, everybody? Jake Fletcher here with the Fletcher Group, Remax Advance Realty in Miami, Florida. Here to bring you an interesting video today on Miami market sense making. Now, this data is actually coming from NAR, the National Association of Realtors. And the reason why I'm including this on Miami market sense making is because the information is about medical marijuana and recreational marijuana and real estate. It's actually the information's coming from the 2018 Marijuana and Real Estate Survey, which was sent through an email in September of 2018 to a random sample of 75,000 NAR members who do residential real estate and 62,000 NAR members who do commercial real estate. It had an overall response rate of 5.8%. And the sample was divided into states who legalized medicinal marijuana only and those who legalized medicinal and recreational marijuana. So as of 2018, there was 9 states, including DC, that legalized both medical and recreational marijuana, and there were 24 states that legalized only medical marijuana. So before I go any further, doing this video in this funky safe in my brokerage where I convinced my brokers to let me turn this into a sound room. So me and one of our staff, Rob, who's super awesome videographer and really cool content creator that makes a lot of our videos, we're going to be messing up this room today, getting it ready to be a sound studio. So that's kind of cool. So since I'm in this funky room, I decided to do a little bit of a funky version of Miami market sense making. You can kind of already hear the audio is not as bad in here as it is in some of the other rooms where I film sometimes. So that's why we're turning this into a sound room, and it's going to be super cool. But let's jump into the topic here. So the 2018 Marijuana and Real Estate Survey, which I mentioned before, actually found some pretty interesting results. So I'm just going to go through these with you today, guys, and talk about what kind of implications this might have for Miami-Dade, right? Because after all, this is Miami market sense making. So as marijuana and real estate is growing, it is a growing market rather, there are currently only 1 to 2% of residential respondents, those realtors that do residential real estate, that were even aware that there was a field in their MLS for medical marijuana. Or marijuana in general. So MLS, meaning the multiple listing service, it's basically the backbone of the real estate industry. It's the raw information of what's on the market, okay? So that's what the MLS is, in case you did not know. So only 1 to 2% of agents even knew there was a marijuana field. Now, I can speak from experience because when I saw that, I of course went to my Miami Association MLS and tried to look for it. I did not find a marijuana field there at all. So interesting. Now, let's talk about perceived property value change near dispensaries, okay? So you have medical dispensaries and you have recreational dispensaries. As far as my knowledge, they are separated oftentimes. I'm not sure if that's the same way in every other state, but here in Florida, we have medical marijuana that is legal, but not recreational. So I know that whatever dispensaries are here in Florida are medical dispensaries. Now, more than 3/4 of members in states where marijuana is legal to some extent saw no change in property values. 3/4 saw no change in property values. Pretty significant. 1/10 of the members in these states saw an increase in property value. All right. And roughly 12 to 14%, depending on if it was a medical marijuana or both medical and recreational marijuana state, 12 to 14% saw a decrease in residential property values near dispensaries. Okay. So interesting data. Okay. Take it for what it is. I think that it probably depends on the area that it's in already, right? If you're in a metropolitan area and there happens to be a dispensary there, I don't think it's going to have a big impact. If you're in a more suburban or rural area where things are a little more spread out, there's a little bit less commerce happening per capita, per square mile, or per square acre, then maybe it might have a little more of an impact, right? Also depends on the perception of the local people there, okay? So difficulty selling a grow house. So when we're talking about grow houses, let's qualify what this means. So a grow house isn't like a, giant underground, like Pineapple Express underground warehouse. It's a house, a residential home that has previously been used to grow cannabis, okay? So 27% of respondents in states where medical marijuana is legal had a difficult time selling a house that was previously a grow house. 73% did not have a difficult time. 33% of members in states where both medical marijuana and recreational marijuana is legal had difficulty, and 67% did not, okay? So interesting statistic there. Let's talk about HOAs, homeowner association rules and regulations. 22% have restrictions on smoking in common areas where medical marijuana is legal. 16% have restrictions growing in common areas where medical marijuana is legal. 14% have restrictions growing in exposed areas, aka private yards or where there's no fence, where medical marijuana is legal, and 11% have restrictions growing in a home where medical marijuana is legal in that state. Okay, so it's interesting there that only 11% have restrictions in growing in a home where medical marijuana is legal. So it seems like by and large, most HOAs, homeowner associations, are respecting patients' rights and their ability to grow their medicine. All right, so now, about 1/3 of respondents, remember respondents are realtors, about 1/3 had seen addendums added to leases, which means like basically a separate agreement within the overall agreement. 1/3 had seen addendums added to leases that restricted growing or smoking on properties. So only 1/3 of leases had some kind of restriction about growing or smoking on their properties. So pretty interesting information overall. I think that as this topic continues to become more pervasive in our society, I think people will realize that it's not as big of a deal as it was previously stigmatized to be. And I think here in Florida, depending on how the regulations are parsed out and how things are run, I think is going to have a big impact on what the real estate side of things are. So for instance, like we talked about with dispensaries, I think that if dispensaries are more commonplace, I think that you're not going to see it cause as big of a shift in increase or decrease of property values. Whereas what it is now, there's only a handful of dispensaries. I think that when you only have a handful, I think that inherently is going to have a bigger effect because it's still in that kind of stigmatized nature where it's not super common and people aren't really realizing and understanding that it's really not a big deal, right? Now, of course, in higher crime areas that are already higher crime, I think that you're going to have, more maybe theft of cash in the buildings or more shenanigans overall happening near those dispensaries. So that might have a bigger impact. But I think overall the key to kind of unrolling this type of, legislation and change to our society overall, I think the key is for just letting leveler heads prevail and having it not reducing the stigma of it, right? Because the reality is that, all science is pointing to the fact that medical marijuana actually does help a lot of people, and that if people are able to go buy a drink or buy beer, they should be able to go buy cannabis, because at the end of the day, it's comparable and debatable as to which one is better or worse, or which one's healthier or unhealthier, and of course everything in moderation. But all in all, it's probably better if you don't smoke or drink, right? Because there's not going to be added health benefits if you're not a patient who needs it, right? Overall. So feel free to agree with me or disagree with me in the comments below. Let me know what you think. But overall, pretty interesting. This was the only real like scientific survey that I could find about this topic. So I thought it was an interesting thing to cover and bring to you guys, and it'll be interesting to see how the unfurling of medical marijuana and of course the impending legislation for recreational marijuana, as that continues to expand in not only Florida but other states. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts the real estate industry and the economy as a whole, right? Because we've seen in certain states that have legalized recreational, we've seen them, add a lot of surplus to their budgets and be able to fund schools and parks and all kinds of things. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. All my social media is below if you want to follow it up. Sell Smart, Buy Bold, Fletcher Group, Jake Fletcher right here in Miami, Florida. I'm out. See you guys next time. Peace.